me in the Esplanade. Or you also get to see any members of our team that you would stop by and say hello. I'm shown here with Alexi, as well as Commissioner Brian Arrigo, DCR Commissioner Brian Arrigo, and our phenomenal Director of Projects and Planning, Ali Budurjan. And I want to, under underscore how important it is to really solidify our working relationship and partnership with DCR. It has been such a joy to work with the commissioner, who just started a few weeks before I started in April of 2023. And with my start in June, we've been fast partners with his team on really establishing a strong relationship. So that said, I think you get a sense of my values, where I'm coming from, and my commitment to this role at the Esplanade Association. So now I really do want to focus on what has been the largest part of the Esplanade Association team's effort and our focus since my start on June 1st. And I would sum it up in the simple description here that we've been working very hard to maintain Esplanade Association's capacity to continue to build care of and for all 64 acres of the Esplanade, while also putting us in a strong position to introduce Charles Bank Landing on the Esplanade, which is going to be a new amenity forthcoming. And so we've been doing so by building financial support for that new major park improvement, also working on significant design plans for that project, and also laying the groundwork for a strategic plan. So we have a roadmap for that transition as an organization. I'm going to focus primarily on the design process this year and how the plans have been developing to date, so you can see what, in terms of the projects, what will be the biggest park improvement that the Esplanade Association has ever made to the Esplanade, how that project is developing. So just zooming in a little bit, if you're familiar with the length of the Esplanade from the Science Museum to Boston University Bridge, we have a plan on track to open the project we're calling Charles Bank Landing on the Esplanade as a very welcoming landing space, indoor, outdoor amenities that will be accessible year round. That's a truly transformational contribution to the Esplanade, as to date, there are not services or amenities that park visitors can count on visiting through November through April. And so most of the park services are open late April through October. And we're really excited to turn the Esplanade into a year-round park. So Charles Bank Landing on the Esplanade is located downriver or near the dam, and between the Longfellow Bridge and the dam and Museum of Science, and adjacent to Mass General Hospital. It's within short footprint or footwalk of a number of public transit stations or parking spaces. And we are excited for this to be a central platform in downtown Boston for exchange and discovery through partnerships, again, and for park users of all ages. So this is a resource we're introducing to be operated by the Esplanade Association and hopefully animated by each of you. I was asked to remind people what had been here before, and I will note that the Esplanade Association did not give the name of this section of the Esplanade Charles Bank. That name was actually given by Frederick Law Olmsted back in the 1890s, as he was designing what was the first free gymnasium in North America for especially residents, immigrant residents living in the tenements of the West End at the time, who were suffering from, say, respiratory illnesses like cholera. And so to be able to give access, immediate access to men, women, and children to fresh air and improve their physical health, but also their mental health and their social health. This outdoor gymnasia for both men and for women and children was designed along the banks of the Charles, thus the name Charles Bank. The original seawall is still there for one section of Charles Bank, while of course the subsequent introduction of Storrow Drive and additional landfill has built out the landscape of the park into the river. By 1950, that site of what I have heard lovingly called the lobster claw of the riverfront was then programmed by the Metropolitan District Commission, or the predecessor to the Department of Conservation and Recreation, with an outdoor swimming pool and diving pool, as well as a spray deck. So this is a 1950 view of the Joseph Lee Pool. And that pool complex was used from the early 1950s through the mid-1990s when it was closed. As a kid who grew up in Dorchester, I swam in the Lee Pool as a kid in the 80s. I had many friends who lifeguarded at the pool and worked for the MDC. So I know the site very well firsthand. It's always been designed, human-made, as a part of the park that is meant for recreation, connection, relaxation, and really being able to enjoy the outdoors. By the late 1990s, the pool building and facility was closed to the public, and it became a site for park operations, taking care of the tree canopy, the horticultural work in the park. If MDC's team were mowing the lawn, dropping grass clippings and the likes in what had been the deep end of the pool. So the pool itself became a site of operations, and when the Esplanade Association was formed, that also became a base for the Esplanade Association's work. However, the building was condemned and razed, and so they knew that that was forthcoming. Some planning process had taken place, and by 2019, DCR removed the building. And so what remains at the site today is an unprogrammed, basically a blank slate waiting for activity to come. And so joining the team, this June of last year, you may still see what is on the left, which is sort of an empty retention pond to hold any rainwater that comes into the site, and also Esplanade Association's operations yard on the right. But what we are working toward is the image on the right, which is an introduction, a gateway, hopefully a welcoming destination and landing space for many different types of enjoyment of the Esplanade. And that is both a building as well as outdoor amenities. And the overall project is what we're calling Charles Bank Landing on the Esplanade. We do want to emphasize this is a very raw rendering by the wonderful architecture team at Marian Thompson Architects, working closely with Michael Van Valkenburg Architects. And we want to emphasize that this is designed to be a universally accessible campus. So you, by foot or by wheel, should be able to access all of the amenities on the campus, and that it's located, it's about 2 acres, and it's located near the Teddy Ebersol Red Sox fields, the spray deck, as you saw, as well as the playground, which will, in the future, be the Gronk playground. This is a plan view ahead of what is the balance of this 2-acre space. And so it is centered by a green building. We're making every effort for the building to meet what are LEED standards. And the building itself is designed to be as flexible in use as the parks are always designed to be for multi-purpose use. The outdoor spaces are also designed to be multi-purpose. So you will see that inside We have a number of community rooms that are reservable by members of the community or public for use from a range of activities. It could be a scout troop working on a STEM project. It could be a neighborhood association coming together for a meeting. It could be knitting for tots, etc. We also have some outdoor spaces that have new vantage points on the park. So a covered and shaded patio, or even if there might be light showers, you could enjoy the park in the rain without getting wet. An upper deck, which is one of a very rare, it's a very rare opportunity for somebody to have a second level view of, say, the Longfellow Bridge, or also the Science Museum. Just being able to get up and elevated to look out onto the cityscape is quite unique for public access. We will have, of course, indoors some basic amenities, a cafe, free Wi-Fi, a stopping off point for people to ask questions at an information desk, get oriented, as well as educational displays, which I'm very excited to be working with a great interpretation working group on, and an outdoor operations yard, a work yard, where much of the work that you had seen along the riverfront behind a scrimmed fence can now happen in a more welcoming and inviting permanent base for operations to care for the entire park. I think maybe the most popular amenity that folks are looking forward to year-round are year-round restrooms, which means if you are taking a stroll or a roll or a jog, any walk, you would be able to count on an open restroom for all 4 seasons of the year. And we're really excited that for the first time, the entire Esplanade Association team will be able to be on site to serve the public and the park firsthand. So it's a really significant offering with then great outdoor experiences as well. And so these are the latest options of the landscape program, which include in the orange area, a universally accessible stage, which unfortunately, with the date of the building of the Art Deco hatch shell, the original being 1929 and subsequently in the 1940s, is not ADA accessible. So in this case, this at-grade stage would be universally accessible with a lawn that slopes down to the stage for great vantage point. And on that lawn also, whether you're enjoying a performance, you're enjoying theater or music or poetry or fashion, you could also take in a temporary installation of outdoor sculpture in a sculpture bed, as well as have a view onto a temporary rotating mural wall. So there will be some opportunities for great expression and new discovery in the campus. The lawn itself has the capacity to support an audience of about 1,500 people. Compare that to the hatch shell, which is about 15,000, certainly hundreds of thousands during 4th of July. This is a more intimate space, so not redundant with the hatch oval, but complementary. And then there are many other experiences to have within the landscape. A discovery trail for exploration among natural growth and rocks that is less formal than, for example, the adjacent Gronk Playground. A rain garden, which offers features of green infrastructure, basically natural or porous water filtration, removing phosphorus, and making sure that the water that ends up in the Charles River is clean, as well as an entry garden, a flexible plaza space for meeting, as well as then multi-purpose recreational courts, which can support many different types of sports or activities. So being lined for things like, for the very first time in the Esplanade, basketball, but also it will be the return of tennis, could be volleyball, pickleball, foursquare, other court sports or games or activities as needed with an adjacent passive lawn to watch that activity. So a range of experiences, physical, social, cultural, and with nature outside. I do want to give a sense of when is this amenity potentially coming to the Esplanade? The Esplanade Association team is working very hard with a number of great advisors, consultants to keep the project on really strong momentum and on schedule. And so we continue to raise support and funds for this initiative, while also welcoming partnerships to begin thinking about interpretation opportunities, recreation opportunities, cultural opportunities, and more. We're finalizing our permits to the submissions are being made sequentially so that all of those are complete and received this fall. And then we'll be signing our lease with the Commonwealth to basically raise the funds to construct this building, gift it back to the Commonwealth, and lease it for 30 years with the option to renew. We're targeting groundbreaking for late November of this year. So this fall, with the potential for our contractor to be determined this summer when we put out the bid this December for them to be able to set up. Our construction project is slated to take 52 weeks. And including inspections, it would mean that our staff are continuing to develop plans for the outdoor programming, reservations within the indoor spaces, et cetera, and beginning to schedule those programs. We'd also be working to increase the scale of our staff slightly in order to operate the building. And by late January of 2026, we're due to receive our certificate of occupancy. And Esplanade Association team would then move into the building to get it ready, some soft operations, some final landscaping that shouldn't be planted in the winter. And then we're looking forward to really celebrating the opening in the high season of 2026, which is going to be such a special year because it is the Esplanade Association's 25th anniversary. It is also the semi-quincentennial, the year that the United States turns 250, and there will be many eyes on Boston, along with Philadelphia, New York, and Charleston. And then we also know that Boston is welcoming the FIFA World Cup in June and July. So we're very excited to be on track to be able to welcome people fully with such a beautiful facility and campus in time for such a special year. So I want to give you a sense, a little bit of the behind the scenes of our design process thus far. The wonderful Marianne Thompson is smiling at left, holding a model where she's teaching the staff how it is that she's pitching the angles of the roof to be most efficient in absorbing as much sun as possible at angles that follow the arc of movement of the sun. She's also receiving input from Esplanade Association staff. But just to note, Marianne and our team have also held, for example, this is a June 22nd listening session in the upper left at the West End Public Library to hear from neighbors and community members as well about hopes for the program, hopes for the campus amenities that would be most desired as we're making final decisions on both the landscape plan and the building plan. So Marianne has made site visits with our operations team. We've talked with wonderful landscape architects at MVVA. Centered here is Kara Gadecki, who's been working with us on making sure that the balance of offerings outside is as welcoming and flexible as the inside. So we're thinking a lot about how it is that we're trying to build partnerships for programs. And I'm very thrilled that there are a few new committees that have really been wonderful to work with on both the board and with partners coming together, one being our Programs and Culture Committee, which is new this year, where we're really trying to think critically about which programs are desired by the community, what is the diverse range of offerings that would really meet needs in Greater Boston, something new that's filling a gap, maybe that is not already offered, and how can we be well resourced for successful partnerships? How can we make an invitation that is really a phenomenal experience? So that's been guiding some of our work as we've been thinking about what could come. I'm just going to share some of our exercise of how we're trying to imagine and prompt community partner thinking on what is potentially possible once Charles Bank Landing opens. So, we've had initial conversations and brainstorms where we are trying to imagine how somebody might use the outdoor stage. Would a partner, for example, Boston Lyric Opera, roll up their street stage and be able to have an elevated experience? Would our stage be able to support all of the amazing talents who perform with Abilities Dance Boston? Will this space be welcoming and accessible if somebody were coming from East Boston on public transit, or folks, for example, knowing Veronica Robles at the Cultural Center, be an easy stop to be able to share their cultural talents with a broader audience in the Esplanade. And, we're trying to think about ways to make this a destination that is exciting and really a space for other partners to feel that they can connect to new audiences as well. Some of our tracking thus far through a really great introduction in June of 2023 of, I guess it's called People Counter Technology for pedestrians and wheels to roll across 4 of the 8-foot bridges in the park, is telling us that more visitors than we've anticipated or expected in the past, in past estimates, are coming in to use the park. So we're on track to count about 4 million park visits a year. And so that's an amazing opportunity for phenomenal, again, sister nonprofits, other organizations to connect to new publics and share their talents more broadly. We'd like to be a platform for that, and now is the time to begin imagining how we can do so. As I mentioned, we'll have a unique view up, 1 level up onto the river. This is a view looking at the Science Museum. It will also look out onto the Longfellow Bridge. And that space does have capacity for a smaller number of individuals, but could also be a site for sponsored programs, could also be a space for a group to rent or for a family or special occasion as well. And this is part of the balance of our operations for the building, is thinking about being freely accessible with operations year round, with some rental activity to be able to afford to keep the rest of the operations and facility free. We are excited to think about partnerships that are local. We've been in touch with, for example, Berkeley, and they have phenomenal programming for high school students, for their current undergraduates. They bring in phenomenal talent around the world. They have a Summer in the City concert series, being another platform for those types of talent to connect with audiences at scales that fit where they are in their career, is something that Charles Bank Landing could allow us to do with differently scaled spaces across the campus. We're really excited. One of our new board members, Teresa Koster, who was voted into the slate formally in advance of this evening's meeting. And a number of other wonderful board members have great connections with Berkeley, and we're very eager to connect to more programs that can help talent, especially emerging talent and students, find a space. We do also have the indoor spaces, the community rooms that could be reserved for other activities. And so we would like to imagine the range of experiences that could happen here. And those could be anything from, we're very aware with East Boston Social Center of the Winter Knits program of their active adults knitting for their early learners. If this can be a space for gathering while also enjoying the view and enjoying the experience of the park, we would love for that to be a convening space. For elders, for youth, Girl Scout studying, science, if it's families coming together. There's a great example at Wave Hill in New York of the Family Art Project, or even just taking in a lecture around, ecology or the latest in climate change research, et cetera. We do want these spaces to be active and also stimulating on many different levels, and spaces that people can feel that they can also give back communally. Outside, we have the sports courts, but we will also have the opportunity to have rotating installations on a mural wall that is significantly scaled and again, prominent and visible across we hope our many park visits by many folks who consider Charles Bank Landing a destination. That wall then shields the operations yard, and it also shields the sound coming from Sturrow Drive, so makes the experience of the park beyond the wall more enjoyable. We do have an opportunity again to think of that as a rotating display that helps prompt people to think about maybe reflections on landscape, and it could be a platform for collaborations with other nonprofits. It could be an opportunity to work directly with artists and artists of national, international stature, as well as locally beloved artists. And again, be another reason, another opportunity to make the Esplanade a destination worth coming back to on a seasonal or annual basis. The courts themselves have some obvious potential uses, but they also have really exciting prospects beyond sports or athletics. And so we are excited to make sure that they meet the needs of many community partners. There are many youth athletic programs as well as adult athletic programs in the area that can benefit from access to more spaces. And when those aren't reserved, there are options to think creatively. If it were with Open Runway for Boston Fashion Week, having something in the space, Design Studio for Social Intervention has a program called Dance Courts, of turning courts into dance spaces. Even in the winter season, it could be a suitable platform for some outdoor fun on ice if the climate permits. But trying to think creatively about these spaces, and always park spaces, as flexible and only limited by what we can imagine we can do in them. Finally, I will point to an opportunity with an area we're designating as a sculpture bed, not a firm or hard sculpture pad, but a space where we might be able to explore collaborations locally, even nationally, to bring exciting temporary installations that could be sponsored with support to be a beacon or a reference point, sort of a seasonal physical symbol of a new season in the park with new works that still relate to the themes of how it is that we relate to landscape, especially in an urban context. So there are possibilities. We have a platform of possibilities, and then it's turning it into a reality. The last item that I would say, we're thinking about the welcome into Charles Bank Landing from the drop-off for those who may come via vehicle or via bicycle. We'll have many bike racks to ensure that green transit through the Dudley path, the shared use path, is supported, and there's a place to then get off one's bike and explore the rest of the park. There are handicap accessible spaces that would welcome visitors right at the entry point. We do know that Department of Conservation and Recreation is looking into ways to even improve how we enter into the lot off of Stura Drive safely and efficiently. And so we're very excited to think about how the Stura Drive facing side of the building can also be welcoming and orienting to visitors to the park. There is an opportunity to have an art facade with banners on the front. And as I've described Charles Bank Landing as a potential gateway, as sort of a welcoming entry point into the rest of the Esplanade, or even to understanding the rest of the state park system. We are hopeful that the banners themselves could be something that's exposing people to ideas more broadly about how people can feel welcome and have access to opportunities. Shown here is a sample by an artist who works with Gateway Arts, which has supported folks with careers in the arts since 1973, and individuals with disabilities across the spectrum have a potential not just to express themselves, but also support themselves through their creative practice. Giving them a platform or other phenomenal programs, if it's Artists for Humanity, who works with very talented teens and getting them started off in creative careers, or other programs, this could also be a welcoming platform to highlight great talents across Greater Boston or in the Eastern Commonwealth region. So just to summarize, we will have potential within these 2 acres to be very responsive to partners working with Department of Conservation and Recreation on the terms of the lease, so that we can, ideally say yes frequently and often to the prospects of partnerships for indoor activity or outdoor programming. And we are hopeful that many organizations can imagine that this is a space where they may wish to reach out to the Esplanade Association and introduce broader publics to their great missions. We do have a goal of operating the Charles Bank Landing building up to 360 days a year, taking off a few winter season holidays. And the hope is to build our capacity to be able to staff the space from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. On average. So it may be 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. in the winter season and 7 a.m. to 9 p.m. in the summer season. But ideally, being a very accessible and available and dependable resource in the park on a consistent basis for visitors year-round. We are allowed through the legislation that made the development of the project thus far possible, also to rent the facility up to 15 days a year in order to build revenue that would sustain the operations and the free access to the site. And we're very excited to learn more and continue to keep pace with park use patterns, park users' needs, what we're told directly or anecdotally, or when people are giving us input out in the park for how people would like to see the facility meet their needs. I'll just note that we're encouraging the team this year, and you'll see this in the park, beginning to take some surveys to learn more from park users, how we can improve our offerings, how do people move through the park, where are they coming from, how frequently do they visit, how do they feel in the park, and it will help us with that data to improve and not just assume what it is that might be meeting needs for future programs out in the rest of the park, as well as at Charles Bank Landing. We do have some data on park use thus far that we're paying attention to and tracking now to see if that is shifting at all in the years since, for example, the pandemic, when the data was last taken in 2020, as well as if it shifts again with the introduction of Charles Bank Landing. So it is a really great reference point to not assume what is sought after in the park, but to actually take that information and then respond to it and build on it for programming forthcoming. I think that just to close, I do want to note that we're not only thinking ourselves in a vacuum about what the space could be, but we are really trying to have support in strategizing for the shift from caring for the park to then also operating the facility while we care for the park and program the park and build community. So to note, the Esplanade Association is embarking on a very targeted strategic plan with that specific question in mind, how we can learn to be an organization that isn't just stewarding the living ecosystems and building community connections in the park, but also do so with a facility, which would be a new skill. We've been working really hard to ask the right questions of our own team and our board to be able to move ahead. And we'll be following on this process May through November. And we'll be working hard to refine and basically set our directive around the new circumstance. Our mission remains the same, making life better on the Esplanade for all, but making sure that we're doing so and leveraging this new resource in a way that helps everybody feel that the park is for them. The very last thing I'd like to share is that, of course, all of our programming and horticultural work and project work continues in the park while we are getting ready for Charles Bank Landing. We're really excited this spring to have some events upcoming that I want to make sure everybody knows about. So this very weekend, Friday and Saturday, Esplanade Association is joining again with our coalition of nonprofit partners for the 25th annual Charles River Cleanup. This is a really big year for the cleanup. It's, again, one of the longest standing cleanups. It's one of the biggest cleanups tracked by American rivers throughout the United States. And it's also part of DCR's Park Serve Day. This is the first year that Esplanade Association is offering volunteer cleanup opportunities both Friday and Saturday. We're very much at capacity on Saturday, but of course, please come out to the park and enjoy. There's still some spaces available for Friday if folks are interested in the opportunity of connecting to the park through that act of service and very satisfying direct cleanup. The before and after experience is pretty amazing. I'll also note that what's typically part of our annual meeting, our annual gathering, will be on Saturday from 12 to 2 by the Fiedler Footbridge in the park. And the theme is volunteer appreciation. This was an idea of Commissioner Brian Arrigo. And we're really excited for just an opportunity after 2 full days of hard work, taking care of the park and seeing the tangible results, to say thank you to the hundreds of volunteers who don't only engage with the park on Earth Day weekend, but from spring through November each year. So this is our chance to say thank you, and we hope that you come out and join us. We have other events upcoming, and I would just encourage folks to please join us for Community Day, which is Sunday, May 19th. It begins right at 9 a.m. with our annual 5K. It's a beautiful course right along the waterfront. And then after the 5K from 11 to 3 o'clock is a free 4-hour concert series produced by Aphrodisia City. And that kicks off our Ground Beat concert series. We have more concerts ahead on May 29th and June 5th. This is a lead-in to Juneteenth. So we're very excited about the concerts forthcoming. And again, they're always free. And then in terms of projects up ahead, we just want you to be on the lookout for a new park improvement from our projects and planning team that we're very excited about. The Centennial Fountain will be coming back to Dartmouth Lagoon after about a 10-year hiatus. This phenomenal monument to 100 years of stewardship by MDC, the predecessor to DCR, had been in the lagoon, keeping the ecosystem healthy and oxygenating the water from 1993 till about 2015. And we're very excited to bring that amenity back to the park. So please be on the lookout for the triumphant return and ribbon cutting. And with that, I will close with, again, very deep thanks. I do hope everybody makes time to come out in the park. If you have an opportunity to say hello, please do. And before we entirely wrap up, we do have a few minutes for questions. If you have any, I do see in the Q&A a question about a comment on the design of the Charles Bank Landing building. And we're being asked how it relates to the park and whether we think its current design will seem compelling in future years. That's a really great question. So I will just share here. Well, maybe I will go back to a slide of the plan to answer your question in terms of how it relates to the park. I think Marianne Thompson has done something really beautiful, which is thinking through how it is that the original old seawall that in Olmsted's day defined the edge of Charles Bank is still there. And now there is this L shape between the seawall and the build out, like the future development of what we know as the Esplanade. So that L shape is something that she's echoed in the structure of a very proportionately scaled building, so that it's really the landscape that takes center stage, and the building is sort of the core or the anchor point of that space. I also think it's very sensitive. Not only is the design responsive to the latest in environmental considerations, the pitch of the roof designed to receive solar in the most efficient way, the placement of windows and the angling of the roof to achieve what Marianne calls the baseball cap effect of shading from solar glare, so ensuring that inside temperature is balanced. She's placed windows in such a way where we can get something that's called the stack effect, where heat rises and then windows can open to let the heat out. So designing in very efficient and green ways means that the building itself is in some ways an object lesson. It's a teaching moment. It's a model. There are moments we hope to interpret directly with some labels to say, why is the roof this way? Why would we be collecting water in this rain barrel? Or why, what are those solar panels actually doing? What is the carbon footprint of reduced by having this many bike racks, et cetera? So we are hopeful that the building, right now we know the building design is responsive to environment and trying to have a light footprint. And we hope that that is not just an aesthetic, but an ethos or a value system that stays. I may have another question. I think you can access questions by hitting the Q&A button at the bottom of the screen. All right. Alexi, I think we have just a few minutes left. Are there any additional comments that you'd want to make to supporters while we have a an audience?
Well, just relative to the question, you know, the same architect designed the Walden Pond Visitor Center, and that's also, you know, there's some similarities in that.
Yes, yes, it's really exciting where our team is going out to visit as a group to learn from the building and learn from the team that's operating the building, and again, building our muscles on how it is that we can both take care of the park, but also do so from a new home base like this. So we're excited to learn from the Walden Visitor Center. And then I think the last thing that I would say is if there are other questions in general about the Esplanade Association's work, our upcoming projects this year, or projects related to Charles Bank Landing, so please don't hesitate to reach out. So you can always reach us at info@esplanade.org. The website is www.esplanade.org. So there are a few avenues to connect. Please, all supporters who are part of the meeting this evening can of course share our e-news with others, and others can sign up from there. So we really appreciate your attention and care for the Esplanade, but also we really appreciate you sharing the word. Again, it's a shared space, it's a collective effort. Nobody can ever do it alone, but we really work hard to be the convener and be the collaborator to invite others into taking care of the park. All right. Thank you, everybody, for staying on. And I hope you have a wonderful evening. And it would be amazing if you're free on Saturday afternoon to see you in the park and say thank you in person for your support.
Thank you.
All right. Take care. Thanks for comments. Again, thank you, Lauren. Thank you, Patience. Thank you to the team. Thanks to everybody who joined us.